Good morning. It's day something of our 13-night transatlantic cruise on the Disney Dream. We got up early o'clock this morning to go on our tour, and we are going around the island of St. Michael or San Miguel of the Azores. We started out in Punta del Gorda, and now we're a scary height up from the ocean. I'm not a fan of heights, but this is a pretty cool tour. There's a lot of cute little villages around.
We did have to wake up early as our tour group was assembling in the Walt Disney Theater at 7:30 a.m. promptly. This excursion started with a motor coach tour, and even though we didn't have such success in Lisbon, we were keeping a positive outlook for this one. After a few moments of being seated in the theater, they started calling out numbers, and it wasn't too long before we were able to get up and head out to our motor coach.
So these islands were found by the Portuguese back in the 1500s, and they were not inhabited.
Right off the bat, we knew that this tour guide was going to be much better than the one we had in Lisbon. The first stop was the Escalvado viewpoint, a very picturesque viewing area built on a cliff that our bus driver backed into. He literally did a 3-point turn further up the road and then backed all the way down to the viewpoint.
All right, so we're on our tour, and we're at Lookout Point here. And our driver backed all the way up from way down there. They managed not to fall off the edge of the island.
Thank goodness.
The islands of the Azores were formed over time by volcanic activity, and on the far side of this outcropping there are actually thermal hot springs that you can climb down and enjoy, and they're open to the ocean. The viewing area is the most western point on the island, and just to the north of us were some interesting rock formations and cliffs. Now, having backed down the road, it should be easy for us to drive forward to get out. Unfortunately, another bus had come in forward, so we sort of had to follow them as they backed out. Our next destination took us up and over the ridge of a caldera, which is a large hole in the ground from volcanic activity, to the town of Sete. Here we had half an hour to get off the bus, use the restrooms, and just kind of walk around and get a little bit of a feel for the town. We walked up and down a few of the quiet streets, and then our tour guide told us about a small grocery right across the street, so we headed that way to see what we could find.
So our guide was telling us it's a very small town, but this is the local supermarket.
Although I would say now that it is more of a convenience store than a supermarket, they managed to cram in, actually, probably at least one of everything you might ever need. So I'm sure that it gets the job done. Although we did find out there was a larger, and I might even say supermarket right down the street. There was a selection of beer and wine here, but there's no reason to buy that in this store. There are plenty of opportunities back at the port. What we did buy, though, was a bag of tortilla chips that we could take up to Ramon's Cafe back on the ship, because while they had tacos and bowls, they did not have any chips for their guacamole. Back on the bus now, we're heading to the Santiago viewpoint up on the rim of the caldera, and this is at a 1,500-foot altitude.
Oh, I'm not a fan of heights. Not a fan of heights.
On one side of the viewpoint is Santiago Lake. On the other side, we could see two bodies of water whose names came from a famous folktale when a princess with green eyes and a shepherd with blue eyes were prohibited from being together, and their tears formed these lakes.
All right, we are on this really scary crater edge, walking up to see the King's View, picture postcard view, but it's really pretty and kind of cold. I mean, look at these trees.
The red dirt is pretty.
So we're walking over there, but there's this abandoned hotel on the top of the ridge. Guy said it was open in the 90s, and in 2020 or so, 2010, there's people up there. They stopped having security and people came and stole everything.
The point of this stop, though, was to get the King's View, and it certainly was majestic. We could see all the way across the crater. Our tour guide told us that they have really heavy fog, like 90% of the year, so that we were lucky to have such a nice day. We could even see our cruise ship from the last stop that we had. The travel on this tour takes place mostly on 2-lane roads, really tiny ones, and sometimes the bus has a parking space. Sometimes it just kind of pulled over and stopped. Okay, so now we're back at town. The wine and cheese tasting is in a hotel, and we're not expecting too much because, oh my God, there was so much cheese and it was all so good. 4 kinds of cheese, bread, jams, and jellies.
Okay, so this was much better than the beer one. The beer tour, we had 3 little samples. This one is like, help yourself to the cheese buffet and all the wine you want so much.
4 kinds of wine?
Yeah, pretty much 4 kinds of wine. Yep.
I think there were several other tours that had this as their final destination, but we were the first ones there, so everything was fully stocked. The primary industry on the island is dairy production, so it's no surprise that one of their main products is cheese. Each of the cheeses came from a different island, so that was interesting. We had 3 kinds of jam. There was fig, passion fruit, and pineapple jam.
There's nothing here that's bad. All these cheeses are really good. They're all pretty mild and similar. The wines are good though.
And of course, they had everything for sale for you. This, I guess, was probably just sort of a sales pitch for their products. We did buy a couple bottles of wine though, so I guess it did work. Time to work some of that off walking about the city, and again, they have these beautiful mosaics in the street. Absolutely incredible.
Well, we are done with our day in Ponta Delgada. We had a great tour today. The woman that took us around knew the history of the island, all about the flora and the fauna. She took us on top of the edge of this huge volcanic crater, which was absolutely amazing. Gorgeous to look at. Lakes at the bottom, towns around, trees. It was just something I hadn't seen before, so that was a lot of wow. And then after that, we had some wine and cheese. That was supposedly the highlight of the tour, and it was. We had all the wine and cheese actually that we could eat and drink, so that was super. Tonight, though, we have dinner at Palo. We are platinum, so we have a $50 credit. They say it's a free meal, and the $50 credit will get you the fixed price menu at dinner per person or brunch. But since we tend to like to go off the fixed price menu at dinner, we'll just use it for brunch and call it a day. So tonight we'll have all of our favorites at Palo, and after that we'll see what happens. It's a lovely night to be out on a ship.
Since we're eating in Palo tonight, I won't have access to the menu in the main dining room, so for posterity's sake, here it is. It's the Crossings menu, and obviously this is a screen grab from the Navigator app. Palo is one of the adult-only restaurants on the Disney Dream. It does have a dress code, so before you leave home, make sure that you check that so that you're not caught unprepared. The way dinner works is there is a $50 fixed price menu, as well as all the items a la carte. So if you don't want to go for what's on the fixed price menu, you can certainly pick and choose what you want. All of the individual menu items are priced as you would find them in a normal restaurant, so don't be surprised by that. We do have the $50 credit per person for being Castaway Club Platinum level members, and we're just going to apply that to the bill, so it will bring it down somewhat considerably. One of my favorite things is in the iced tea, they put iced tea ice cubes so your drink doesn't get watered down. We started with the complimentary amuse-bouche, which was a fried potato gnocchi in a mushroom broth and was stellar as always. For my appetizer, I got frito di calamari a gamberi, which was, of course, fried calamari, jumbo shrimp. Came with a lemon garlic mayonnaise and some marinara to dip into. Stacy got the buffalo mozzarella, which came with heirloom tomatoes, a basil pesto, and then our server drizzled a little bit of balsamic on top. If you're looking for an appetizer to share, you can't go wrong with the calamari. There is plenty on that plate. And try the cherry peppers. They may look spicy, but they're really very sweet. The highlight of Stacy's salad was that buffalo mozzarella. I don't know where they get it, if they make it themselves, but it is just melt in your mouth good. For our pasta course, we both wanted the lobster pappardelle, but we didn't think we could finish all that pasta, so we wanted one serving that we could share, but then we both wanted our own lobster tail. So we talked to the server about it, and he talked to the chef, and then we got one serving of pasta with 2 lobster tails, and I have to say that was the best part of the dinner. Stacy got the potato gnocchi for her entree that came with roasted tomatoes, pine nuts, basil pesto, and then of course our server put a little fresh Parmesan on top.
Oh my gosh, I can tell already that they're super soft.
These are just pillowy bites of delight. I don't know how else to describe them. My choice tonight was the ossobuco. It is a slow roasted center cut veal shank with gremolata and risotto. I've had this before and it is amazing. It is so tender. You can pull it apart with a fork, no knife needed. It is a large dish though, so make sure you come prepared for that, and you'll want to finish all that risotto as well. You can't have a fine dinner like this without finishing off with something sweet, and I don't even know what else is on the Palo dessert menu because we just automatically go for the chocolate souffle. You have to give your server a little bit of warning. He'll ask you earlier in the evening if you want this for your dessert because it takes about 20 minutes to prepare, but it's totally worth it. The souffle comes with indulgent chocolate and vanilla sauces, which your server will poke a hole in your souffle and then pour right into there for you. Also comes with a little bit of vanilla ice cream, which really helps to cut the sweetness of the chocolate. I know that sounds weird, something sweet to cut something sweet, but it really does help. This is a meal you'll want to luxuriate over and take your time. We spent about 2.5 hours on dinner. Finished off with a little after dinner drink that they give to you. It is a lemon sorbet, some apple brandy, and a touch of Prosecco. The cost of our dinner before the $100 discount was $133, so it was $33 plus a $23 auto gratuity. Got back to the room to discover our laundry had returned, and that was awesome, and we found a penguin on the bed, I think. Alright, let's do 5 days at sea starting tomorrow.